Here's the only question that matters. What's the first domino that falls when you disappear from your business?
When you're controlling everything, you're limiting your business. You're the bottleneck of the business.
Because whatever falls first is the truth of your business. If nothing moves without you, your business will die with you.
Then your schedule should allow for strategic, creative thinking, for relationship building, or attending to opportunities that just present themselves.
My today's guest is Maggie Perotine. She's the founder of Stairway to Leadership, where she helps service-based businesses to make a sellable asset rather than a liability.
Hey, we can double your business in a year or so, right? And automatically what they think, because that's the only way we know, oh, if I double, that means I have to work more, but I'm already working full. I don't want this.
We have ranked red flags, talked about the clean rules for hiring and productizing service. I think so you should not miss this podcast episode. I will start with this one. You may have never seen this, but I'm going to start with this one.
Okay.
You can open it and see if you can read my writing.
Yeah. If there is something you hesitate to say, it's too blunt. Say that one. I agree. We'll see how that goes. Okay. Thank you for the permission. You know what? I'm Polish. We tend to be blunt. I have to
Don't
hide my inner voice.
Yeah, you can have it. This is for you. Yeah. What does die with you actually means in business terms?
If you have a business that everything depends on you, you're the business, right? Nothing can happen without you touching it or delivering service or doing something for the clients. Then if you die, the business dies, right? And I think that's unfortunate because when we're business owners, we spend a lot of time and hard work building something that could be an asset if we're smart about it as soon as possible. So then when we die, maybe there could be that asset could be passed on either to, family members who can pick it up and do it and benefit from that, or it could be sold and then either ourselves, if we do it before we die, or our family members can benefit from it.
What's the first thing that's going to break if the founder disappears?
It depends how they structured the business, of course. It depends if they have a team or not, right? If the founder disappears and they're the business, then that's gone. If, from my experience with certain clients who for example, have a team, but then they're sick or they're going away and they haven't put certain things in place, then usually anything out of the team's realm or anything out of ordinary stops or slows down. So maybe a client has a question that the founder gets involved, everything to do with the client, then the team cannot answer it. Or an opportunity for sale comes in. And let's say if the founder is only involved in sales, then that opportunity can be gone or it stops, right? If there is a challenge with the delivery or production that every time something happens, founders gets involved, then, they're calling him in or them in somewhere from abroad or whatever, saying, hey, what are we doing, right? So it just depends on how the business is run, how is it set up. But very often it's sales, anything out of ordinary, maybe a client complaint or whatever, and bigger decisions.
Many founders think that clients love me, I'm safe. Is this the right thinking?
If they think clients love me, it's a bit selfish, I would say, because if you have great team members, which I believe as founders and leaders, we should attract people that are better than us in areas that we're not as strong. Clients can love our people as well. And they can love, actually what they should love, the clients, is the value we deliver them. So whether it's our products, our services, the brand, they should feel more connected to that than us as human beings. Because then, Are you having a business that creates value and helps your clients, or are you building friends, relationships, right? So I think it's a very limiting thing and selfish to think that clients should love you and only I can interact with them or deliver them, because with that, you're limiting actually the impact you can make with to more people, right? If I'm the only person, there's only so many clients I can serve in a day, in a year. But if I develop a product or a service that is so amazing that the clients love it, and then I empower others to help me with it, I can have so much more impact.
How would you define the empowerment? Like, what do you mean? Training?
So I mean, hiring the right people and then training them.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. I had a client who is a therapist, so speech pathology for mostly children, early development. And when she came to work with me, she was at the point where, business was coming. It's a US client, so she was working with the counties that would identify families and kids in need of that type of therapy and needed to refer them to specialists like my client. So she was gaining traction. Her business was online, and that was also like COVID, right? So it was hard to do in-person therapy. And even though she had already a couple of contractors working with her, she would like take on clients for therapy, but still having this ambition and trying to grow that business. And at the point where she became overwhelmed. Like it was, she didn't have time for her family. She was burned out and so on. And her thought and why she was stuck in that cycle was that her thought is, I don't know how to lead people. I'm not good at it. I don't know how to do it. So she was scared of hiring people. And also the thought like, I can do the best, right? Like I'm the one that came up with the idea. She had like a very unique way of approaching that therapy. So it's like, I'm the one, so I can only do it. But then as we started coaching together, I showed her like, hey, you can actually help more families and impact more people if you extract that method out of the brain. And I helped her with it, define it, and then train therapists to it, right? Like if you're hiring therapists, they already have a skill set. There's certain standard that they need to meet. All you need to do is now train them with that method. And then with that, you can grow and scale your business, get yourself out of the burnout and overwhelm, and help so many more people. And once that clicked and she grew her leadership skills and ability to hire the right people, train them, motivate them, and all that, she actually loved that. Like going from being scared, I don't know if I can do it, to I actually love being a CEO because I can see how it impacts people. So
can you talk about that method that you used?
Her method, I can't.
Oh, but I thought your method.
No. So the therapy method.
Okay.
So I didn't get into the details. I just helped her extract that, because sometimes when we're experts, we do things, it comes to us so naturally that we don't see that it's a method, right? So it's hard for us to extract it from our brain because it's so ingrained in us that we don't see a pattern. Yeah. Whereas what I do, I helped her extract the pattern, make it into a process and a training, and then she was fine, but I did not develop her.
Got it. So basically you asked or you prompted her to give you or lay down the exact steps that she's taking, and more so off like so that you can, from outsider point of view, you can
exactly, right? Because when as a coach or anybody, right, when you're removed from that and you act like, teach me like if you were to explain it to me, a layman, I'm not a therapist, right? How you do it, what you do, then by her explaining to me and me just asking questions, right, from the client perspective, from an employee perspective, if I was an employee and I had to learn that, what else would I need to know? That's how you sort of extract that, right? And then it doesn't mean that once you extract it the first time, it's perfect, right? But then you have a shell of a training, and then as you train your employees, then they will tell you what they're missing. right? They're like, okay, what about this? There's a gap here. What do I do here? And that's how you reiterate and you make the training and the process better and better.
And you said like she was not, or she didn't know like I need to hire people, right? So according to you, leaders are born or can be trained? Basically like both?
No, they're made.
They're made?
And trained, yeah.
You can
and how I know that from my own story. Yeah. I never consider myself a leader person. Now, I believe everybody is a leader, and we can get into that in a moment if you want to.
Yeah.
But I discovered my passion for leading people through my corporate career here in Canada. So when I'm an immigrant, I'm Polish. I was 27 when I came. And because I'm bilingual, so I got a call. Like my first job was in a call center. Taking calls from people in the buildings and like reporting things, my toilet overflow and so on. But anyhow, in that industry, I started getting promoted. And now, my very first leadership, I was like a junior supervisor who had to coach other agents, but some of them were like 20 years older than me. And they're like, who is this young girl gonna tell me what to do now, right? Yeah. But because I had some great mentors and I realized like I actually liked helping people get better. That's what really leadership is, right? How can I help you get better so we can together achieve the goals that we have? And how can I remove obstacles that maybe you have in front of you? So through the great mentors that I was lucky to have, my bosses, and then different trainings that then I pursued because I thought like, if I'm going to lead people, I want to be good at it. I want to understand how to give them feedback, how to resolve conflict, how to do all those things. I became very good at it, but it took years of training, application, and learning. I wasn't just born with it. And through that, for me, it's like any skill set, if you're learning how to swim in the beginning, you might not like it because you're not very good at it. But as you learn and you get good at it, you might actually start to enjoy it, and you won't know until you try. So I do believe that leaders are made. Those are skill sets you can learn.
If you see from this perspective, like if you have a buyer if there is a buyer wants to buy someone's business and they look at the things for 10 minutes, I don't know the things, maybe the financials, maybe the operation part. If they look at the business for 10 minutes, what would be the first thing that's going to scream that this business is not going to work without the founder?
Okay. So the first thing is understanding what is the founder involved in, right? So what does the founder do? Does the founder deliver service or, is, let's say, producing the product? That's one red flag. Are the processes documented, right? Is everything in founder's head, or is there documentation of how we gain the client, how we onboard the client, how we serve the client, how we get payments, right? If nothing is documented, business is not sellable because the founder walks away with everything in their head, no business, right? So things have to be documented. They will definitely look at the financial statements, right? Is the business making money or not? Profitable? If it's not profitable, it doesn't mean it's not sellable because sometimes people like to just like you flip a house, right? You can flip a business. So it's more of a matter, is there enough there to work with, right? For me to flip it? Because maybe, some founders are not great in managing their money and, sometimes business show loss for very specific reason and it's on purpose, not because they're struggling. So it's a matter of seeing, like, is there a potential there? Can I flip it? But definitely financials are important. Those would be the things that are probably.
We talked about documentation. Like, is there time? Is there any right time to start documenting the things?
I would say the moment you start doing things more than once, start documenting. Pop it up, and it doesn't have to, because sometimes we think, that documentation has to be these complex flow charts and these big things, which I used to do as, in some of my corporate roles. But for a small business, it can be as simple that I pop up a Google Doc and I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is, let's say, how I onboard the client, right? I have a conversation, I send them a contract, here's the payments that they do, this is what I use, then this gets sent, this gets sent, this gets sent, because also what it allows you to do, then it allows you to maybe streamline some of it, automate some of it, right? We have now so many systems that can talk to each other, we have AI, but you can't automate something that you don't have a flow created in a process. So I would say as soon as you grew your business to the point when you're doing the same thing over and over every single time a client comes on board, you want to start documenting and then thinking about how can I optimize it and streamline it and not do manually those steps every single time.
So if you would have to bet, would you bet on a business that's making $500,000 or that has a value worth of $500,000? Maybe the contracts that's going to come, or maybe the potential that you see in a business?
Yeah, I would say you can bet on business in different stages depending on what you can. What matters is, what is the potential there? How strong are the relationship between the owners and the key partners or key, stakeholders in the business? Yeah. Because again, a small product, the sales are very transactional, right? I'm selling creams, the client can decide on the moment, boom, 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 right? The higher the value of what I'm selling, the more relationship-based it tends to be. Right? If I have a contract that's worth millions of dollars, there's usually multiple people involved. The sales cycle is longer. It's more complex. There's more relationships going on. So it truly depends on type of the business and also who I am. Do I understand the industry as a new owner? Do I have certain relationship established that I'm bringing in with me to that business, right? Yeah, it's more complex than it seems.
Like a simple answer, yeah.
Yeah, do I have a team that's coming in with me? Do I have skill set to lead people, right? Because every change, especially like in selling a business, that means there will be some attrition of clients no matter what. Okay, that's I think that's even calculated into the valuation. And then, the percentage depends on the business. And also, if I'm inheriting a team, even if I'm the best person ever, and even if I'm not planning to make any changes, there will also be attrition because as humans, we get attached to people we work with. And if there's teams who are very loyal to the previous owners, they might not like my style, even though I'm still a good leader, right? So there might be some attrition there that I will have to deal with. So what business you want to bet on and how, it also depends on you as a new owner.
Got it. And how would you define how the founder dependence gets built? How do you know it's getting there? Somehow it's getting there.
So if founder is hoarding all the decisions, everything has to go through them. If they're involving themselves in every part of the process of, product delivery, service delivery, sales, in everything. If they don't want to hire or they're very insecure, hiring people better than you and good people, I always say requires a lot of self-confidence and security in yourself. Because if you're not self-secure and understand that we all have different skill sets, different strengths, and bringing in people who are better in certain areas of you, it's actually an asset. But if you're not secure in that, you won't do that. Therefore, you'll always bring people that are maybe as good or even not as good in things, and that team might be subpar. And then that means if you don't have the right team in place and not good, they create more work for you than actually taking away the work and adding to the value of the business and the growth. So I would say those.
You were on the topic of founder thinking that this may happen. So this may happen, or maybe is that a fear? Is that a control? Is that an ego? Can we tag it?
Control comes from the ego. Needing to control comes from the ego, right? So from ego feels secure where it needs to control. So you need to let go of the ego and understand that, when you're controlling everything, you're limiting your business. You're the bottleneck of the business. And what I always say to my clients is that delegating, because people are scared to delegate, they're scared to think, doesn't mean you give somebody something and you forget about it and you don't know what's going on and so on. So there is a balance in, I don't need to control every single thing that my employees do, but I need to understand the process, right? I'm the one setting the process. We can improve it together, because then once your employees start doing something, they'll have ideas of how to improve it when you remove yourself. But I also need to measure certain outcomes that I want. And I need to meet with my team members on a regular basis to see how it's going. So when things start going off the track or whatever, we can pivot. And so there is a difference between micromanaging and controlling and delegating, removing yourself from it, but still knowing what's going on in your business, having a say in pivoting or shifting direction if things are not going right? You have to measure what you expect. You have to be aware of what's going on, because it's still your business. As long as you're the founder, you're the owner, CEO, it's still your business. It's your responsibility, the success of the business.
If someone's calendar is like completely full and they are the founder, is this telling you something, or
it's definitely telling me something. So again, there depends, but there shouldn't be full to the point where they don't have time to strategize, to think, to be, if as a founder and CEO, I need to be also a vision person, right? I need to have time to strategize, to innovate, to come up with ideas and so on, right? So like you should always have time. I call it like a CEO time, not I'm just meeting, I'm meeting with the clients and so on. So there needs to be a place for that, okay? And then, of course, you also need room it shouldn't be full to the point where if there's something happening and you need to address something, you don't have time. And then if you don't, then everything else falls apart, right? So it shouldn't be full to the every second. You also need space to support your team on something that maybe wasn't expected, or deal with the client, or attend to an opportunity that shows itself. Let's say it's time sensitive, right? You need to be able to say, oh yeah, that's a great opportunity. Let me explore it, right? So if you're a founder that is still building a business, that is still involved, of course, your schedule will be built a certain way, unless you're becoming a founder that is more of a shareholder, but not involved, right? You could get to your business to the point where you hire a CEO and everybody runs the business, or you are a shareholder or kind of part of the board, or you're the advisor and you're not involved in the day-to-day at all, right? You can get there as well. But if you want to be involved and you are the CEO, then your schedule will be, let's say, full, whatever that schedule is, because that's also our decision, right? I could have a 4-day schedule, and 3-day, I'm off my personal stuff and I set my business that way. But then your schedule should allow for strategic, creative thinking, for relationship building, or attending to opportunities that just present themselves, to supporting your team, and not be, filled with meetings day and night.
And when does that being needed becomes a liability rather than an asset?
Being needed, when you're needed for every single thing and your team can't make decisions on their own and can't think on their own, right? So there is, and of course, again, it can happen gradually, but I had a client who actually had it structured really well, and she had a service business that she sold, was able to sell. But the way she structured it, it's like, okay, when I'm there day to day, here is the scope of decision making that my team can do. And if there is this, or this happening, then come and consult me, right? But when I'm away, so if I'm going on vacation, then she would expand that ability for the team to make a decision and say, okay, if these things are happening, this is what you can do. I'm giving you authority to do this. If there's a client complaint, here's what you can do, whatever, right? Or if there's an opportunity, a new potential client comes in, she had a person who could step in and, do the conversation, start the quoting process, whatever that was. And then everything else can wait when I get back, right? But if you're involved in every single thing and your team is just doers of the tasks, but not decision makers, that's when the...
If a founder hired a team member,
Yeah.
stepped away for the first time, maybe as an example,
Yeah.
and the person is asking the questions still the person was trained on. So that means a bad hire, bad training.
Might be. So are they asking like the first time ever? Or is
First
it like
time ever,
over and
same,
over?
over and over, maybe the first time ever or over and over, same question, documentation was provided, everything.
So it's the same. If it's over and over, definitely bad hire. It's a problem.
Got
like
it.
if I trained somebody, retrained, re-explained, gave them opportunity to absorb and learn, and it's over and over, bad hire. If it's in the beginning, sometimes think about it. Like if you learn something new, you don't always remember 100%, right? So there is some reiteration that has to happen and some practice. So I wouldn't be, here's a new hire, you're day 2 on the job, I'm out for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't recommend that.
Yeah.
Also, there is also that human aspect that the person might feel uncomfortable. So it's also like you want to hire a person who feels comfortable in making decision and taking on responsibility, right? The first time we do something for them, it might be scary. So as a leader, we want to hire people who are able to do that, but also reassure them that we have their back. So as long as, if you operate within these perimeters that I trained you on and I created, even if the decision you make is not exactly how I would do it, I will have your back. Right? Because sometimes people are scared because what if I make the wrong decision? So part of the training of the team is not only training them on the process and so on, but also saying, as long as you're within it, I have your back. Even if that decision is a bit different to what I would have taken, we can talk about it later. I can explain you my reasoning or how I would handle. So the next time you can do better, but I'm not going to beat you up, not in, real life, but I'm not going to be mad at it that you made a different decision than me. Because if you do that, then you're actually depriving your team from that agency. You're depriving them from the courage of making the decisions because they're like, oh, every time I make a decision, it's wrong. So what's the point?
Is there any clean rule when to hire?
I would say when you start. So the hiring is when you start being full, your schedule. So no matter what you do and how you cut in, you're starting to overwork, right? And you know that without some help, you won't be able to bring in more clients. And I would even say you can start thinking about it ahead of time in a sense that, let's say, if you set your goals for the year and you're thinking about the growth you want to achieve in this year, you can start thinking about at what point I will need help because I want to be able to maintain the same quality of the product or the service and so on if I grow to that point, right? So let's say you have 20 projects a year, your construction company, can you handle 40 with the same setup and the same in just you? And because let's say you're planning to have 40, and if the answer is no, then then at what point you need somebody? And then you can start planning for it.
What would happen if I hire someone like too soon or maybe too late?
Well, if you hire too soon, then you got to bring the clients in, because then you're paying for somebody and you might have some financial challenges. So I would say I prefer a bit sooner than too late, but then you need to realize that when you're doing sooner, you got to bring in the clients. You're going to bring in.
You have that pressure.
Right. You have a bit of pressure, which is not bad, right? Yeah. Hiring too late has its own challenges. What happens is then it's very hard for you to train them properly because you're already overwhelmed. You don't have time to just even serve. And then very often what happens, and I've done that in my corporate career, you desperate hire, meaning I just need help, so I'm going to hire anybody who breathes and moves, right? And desperate hiring, as I call it, never works out. It's usually you make wrong decisions. And then that costs you more work, because then if the person doesn't work out, you need to let them go and you start over. And that's when people sometimes say, oh, there's no good people out there, or I'm not good at hiring. And it's not that. It's because how you approached it, when you approached it. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
And when should someone productize their service or keep it custom? Or not when should, or someone should know, like, okay, this is a time I can productize the service, or I can like make it, keep it custom, like only because then only I think most probably the founder can do it, or certain people can do it, like being trained by the founder.
Yeah, so I would say it all depends on what you want, right? Like there's no one right way to run a business. It's like, what are your long-term goals? What do you want? Do you want to have a boutique, very exclusive type of service company that deals, maybe if anything, you elevate who you serve and you serve more elite and elite clients, and I keep it custom. And as you say, I just train people so I have more of a, how do you call it, like specialist expert traits, right? Person. Like if you think about even some luxury goods, right? I think about Hermes and their bags and how they make it. Like they're skilled artisans. They think they're made by hand in France. They don't even have designs, so it's all knowledge, right? So there's a limit to it, but became this big luxury brands because they keep the supply low and demand this thing. And that's their choice. That's how they run their business, right? So you could do that and you just train, very small number of people and how you run the processes. But you can scale because it's very difficult. And by scale, I mean Hermes still sells to a lot of people, but there is a limit to that, right? Yeah. Or you can decide, okay, maybe I do a hybrid. I have some things that are very customized. There's very little limited demand. And then I productize certain things. And those usually can be the entry-level things. So if I have a service, I think about myself as a coach, right? There is, when I coach beginners, people who are just starting their business, maybe they have a job and they want to quit and so on. This is entry level, and there's less customization that is needed to help them succeed. I can do more of a product of that down the line, or I can scale it on a bigger thing. So I can scale that, but maybe keep still my one-on-one coaching for businesses that are at a certain level, at a certain things, that I can keep that, right? Or you can just be, okay, I just want product, digital, or type of service as a product type of business. And then you usually appeal to a larger audience with more of a repetitive need, right? There's more of that you can create.
But more of the custom things that you're doing, I think creates a lot of problems, or more problems in terms like when you want to sell it. What do you think?
Yeah, it definitely affects your valuation, right? Because if you're the only one who can do it, then that portion of the business cannot be sold, right? So the valuation goes down. Mm-hmm. And if you have employees who can do it, customs, for example, if you think about interior designers, unless you're designing for builders, everything you do is custom, right? But if you have other designers work with you and you have a certain process, you can still sell it. Mm-hmm. right? You can still, okay, I'm removing myself and there is another, let's say a different designer that buys this. You still have employees and then that do it, you have a process, there's a clientele that likes the brand, comes back and so on. So it depends. If you're the only one doing it, that's definitely like you can sell that.
And what are the decisions, or what is the decision that costs like founders maybe 2 or 3 years until they realize like they are burned out?
What is like the moment where they realize that they...
Or the moment, or maybe like if you can save someone's 2 or 3 years with your advice, what would you tell them? Like maybe I can phrase this question in this way.
So that's a big... we can go in so many different ways of it. I think it starts with the belief of the founder of where they can go and that there's many ways to get there, and the way that they think is the only way or the right way might not be that, because sometimes the founders think, so sometimes when I talk to potential clients, they think that I can say, hey, we can double your business in a year or so, right? And automatically what they think, because that's the only way, you don't know, oh, if I double, that means I have to work more, but I'm already working full. I don't want this. So very often founders or people don't even go for growth because they think that that growth is achieved the same way I'm doing things now and I'm already full and overwhelmed and I don't want this. Whereas that's totally not the way. Because in order to double and 10x your business and so on, you actually have to do things differently. So I would say you have to be open-minded and realize that you have so much more potential to grow in a way that you didn't even know was possible. And when you get the external point of view or advice, you get open to that idea in different ways. And that's what usually speeds up and saves people a burnout or allows them to actually like live the life and speeds up their growth, right? So I often see that with potential clients or people who come where they grow very slowly and in a very way that's overwhelming for them, where sometimes they lose motivation for the business. They question their choices. They don't even know. They're like, I don't even think I should be doing it, or, you know, I'm a good business person, because they went about it one way and they haven't considered up to that point that maybe there's a different way.
And if the client is, or clients are repeatedly asking, I only want to work with you, what should be the response?
Oh, for them. Oh, I would say, the moment you start hiring and getting people to work, you have to start selling your team, and you have to start selling more of your brand and the experience that the client will get no matter who delivers it than yourself, right? So in the beginning, when we're starting the business, of course, the delivery of the service and client experience is tied to us, right? But the moment you decide, okay, I want to grow, I want to hire people, you have to do the work of educating your potential clients and so on. That's now they get the amazing experience no matter who does it. Okay, and when you do that, because think about it, new clients as they come in, they don't know that we did the work ourselves before. They just met us. So if we present our business this way, hey, there's Maggie and there's Sishu and there's Mary and there's John, and no matter what, you get great service, they'll be like, okay, sure. Maybe past clients will have that, and then you have to manage that, and either, keep them or slowly move them to people, or be okay of losing them if you don't want a service and they're stuck on you. That sometimes happens. But the new clients, they have no prior experience. So it's our job to sort of present what the client needs, the value, the experience in a way that, hey, with our company, it doesn't matter who does it. You get the same amazing service, product, and so on. It's our job to do it.
So if it is a new customer, like just keep that distance.
Yeah, or just like set the expectation upfront, right? So like, hey, welcome, nice to meet you. Here is Mary. She will serve you, blah, 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 right? And I always tell my clients it's our job to educate and lead our customers in a way that's best for them, but it's also best for us, right? For our business. And that's when those wins are.
Got it. Do you have any example where, or of your client or maybe someone that you know is busy making money, but still cannot sell their business for some reason, XYZ?
I was thinking about that. I don't have an example. Well, with my clients, like that usually doesn't happen because we, set it up that way. And I don't know if any like business owner who've been trying and didn't. I would say there's different ways. Maybe they're trying to sell it. They have a bad broker. It's kind of like real estate. If you have a wrong agent, it might be hard to sell your house. Like I actually went through it. My very first house, I couldn't sell it with the first, and it was many years ago when it was, the market was down. So I couldn't sell it with one real estate agent. And so I had to take it out of the market, and then I hired a better one and I sold it. So it might be that. It might be nothing for you, but I can see examples of, I'm looking at the business owner, like say, I observe and say, okay, in the way right now they're running their business, they wouldn't be able to sell it, but I don't know if they want to, right? So, and that's mostly because they're the ones delivering the service. And even though they have some employees, the employees are just helpers, right? They're the ones involved in everything. So in the state their business is right now, and that's another contractor, they wouldn't be able to, but that might not be their goal, and that's fine.
So if you get into any business or someone hires you, like what is the first system that you establish in their company? What is the first thing that you establish or you have established in their company which makes the things change faster?
So it depends what they come with, but very often it's actually lead generation and sales. So quite often, not always, okay? So there are sometimes where the first thing we establish is actually service delivery and process on that end. But quite often, the businesses that come to me, either they have a very ad hoc, like they rely only on referrals and there's no process to it. So like the referrals come or not. Or, for example, even sometimes established businesses, let's say they were established 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, the market was different. Maybe they had less competition. There was different things, right? So they were known with the brand and they were relying on that knowledge and people coming back and whatever they're ordering. And now, first of all, some of those people are selling their own businesses or their own thing and retired and no longer need service. The market is different and so on. And they never had a very proactive way to bring in new clients, new leads, right? And now they're realizing, oh, we stalled, we cannot grow. And if the economy is even harder, then so getting them to change that perspective, no, like you have to go out and you have to introduce your business to new people who started, who have no idea you exist. Because you never did, or for the past 10 years, you haven't done much because you relied on that repeat business and so on, right? So very often is that establishing sources of lead generation and clients. And then if anything, either setting up or streamlining their sales process. So as the leads come in, they can convert as many of them as possible because you want to, you put an investment, whether it's time or resources to bring in. Now you want to make sure that you can close as many of those leads as possible now, plus nurture the ones that might not be ready. So those are often the first two things, not always, but often the first.
But what if, like, if you have found both as the problem, like lead capturing is the first thing.
Yeah.
They're not getting the new leads, or maybe they're not converting. That is the first thing that you saw.
Yeah.
And the second thing that you may have noticed is their deliverability is not on point. Like there is a problem there as well. Like, is it gonna be like pick this one first, pick this one second, or?
Sometimes it's simultaneous. Like I want, the way I work with my, kind of simultaneous, right? We can work on certain things. A week has 5 days. So there's things we can focus on. And I work with my clients in a way where we meet weekly, right? So for example, maybe 1 week we're looking at the lead generation, and then there's some actions that they need to take, and they're taking them and they're implementing. But then the next week is like, okay, like, keep doing that. Okay, if the deliverability is a problem, I always find there's always like low-hanging fruit, right? So there's always things that you can do quickly and easily to improve something in a way that makes an impact, right? So like we always pick the low-hanging fruit first, that's easy to implement, has an impact, and then dive deeper. So it both need to be addressed. We find a way to address both and kind of carry them on. Yeah.
Are there any checks that someone should keep in mind, like as a seller, like I'm ready to transfer? If someone is gonna buy, I have these things in place. Otherwise, I will be facing problems down the line, because eventually, if they find out, like I'm not talking about financials, I'm talking about like other stuff. Maybe it's gonna make sellers' life easier. I'm not talking from a buyer point of view. I'm talking from a seller's point of view. Any checks that they should have in mind, like before they think or before selling it.
Yeah. So definitely financials.
Okay.
Like I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to talk about that. But having clean financials, because just one simple example, warehouses founders don't pay themselves.
Yeah.
They're like, I'll take dividends here and so on, right? That has to be cleaned up, because the new owner needs to see that, hey, I can make money, let's say as a CEO, and the business still makes profit or whatever, right? So financials has to be cleaned up a bit and almost like staged sometimes, okay? But those are other experts who do that. Then another check is the processes. Is everything documented? Or the roles of my team? And that starts with how do we acquire clients, how we sell, to how we deliver service or product. How do I hire and onboard people? What kind of roles there are? What do they do? What they're responsible for, right? And then processes within those. Any policies and procedures. So if I have full-time employees and certain amount, right? My vacation policy, my this policy, all those procedures documented according to your local jurisdiction, right? That has to be done. Then again, looking at the longevity of the revenue and income. So looking at the clients, like, am I more transactional? And if I'm more transactional, how are the leads finding me? So it might be a website, it might be some ads that I'm running that are not really related to me, right? If it's not transactional, if I have longer contracts, how long? So again, you can think about, okay, if the more time there is in a contract, the easier it is to sell. Right? Because if, let's say, 80% of my business is still in a 5 or whatever longer cycle of the contract, then the seller will think like, I have time because I have guaranteed. It's all about guaranteed income, right? What is the buyer thinking like, okay, how much of a guaranteed income I have and for how long, until I get to know the business, establish the relationships and things like that.
And what would be the first thing that would break if someone tries to extract themselves out of the business? I'm going to slowly start stepping away, and first thing that would break.
Again, it depends what they're involved in.
But as a department, or maybe process, sales, or...
Could be sales, if they're involved in it heavily. Could be the team. So let's say for example, even in the delivery, if you don't have an operational lead that, let's say, helps the people who deliver the service to figure out the challenges on site, or, deal with vacation, whatever that is. If you don't have a person who deals with it and you deal with it, then the team would break, right? If you're removing yourself. Yeah. And definitely sales and anything else you're tied with that's critical to the business. That you're tied in right now in either making decision or a relationship or whatever.
And what are the top signs or red flags that this business will die, whatever that business is? Red flags.
Red flag. Well, definitely looking at their historical growth. If there's no growth and they've been stalling or the sales are declining, that's like red sign that it could die if nothing changes. Another thing is the team. So if the team is toxic, people are not communicating well, there's a big turnover, there is a lot of overlapping, nobody knows what they're doing, and there's a lot of conflict, for sure. If that doesn't change, and that sometimes it's more difficult to change than sales. That is another sign. And, I don't know, like if we are thinking about just a business who is not necessarily thinking of selling, but if the founder lost their motivation, that doesn't have a vision and a passion for it and so on, self-fulfilling prophecy type of thing.
But are there like any obvious things? Maybe the operation is not documented or anything. Like we have already talked a lot about the documentation, but
you can look at client retention, complaints. If you have more complaints than not, and clients, you are not retaining clients, they're not coming back, they're not referring. That's another big sign.
Do you think as a human, you would or someone would always need a manager to look up to? Because if the founder has extracted themselves out of the business and the reviews and the complaints are coming, like there has to be some checks.
You have to have a leader. There has to be a leader with ownership and responsibility for the success of the business. And of course, the bigger the business, the more leaders there are, right? Responsible for it. But you can't expect employees to care more about the business success than the owner. Like that's not fair, right? So if you want to extract yourself, you have to have a leader in place.
But leader is also an employee.
They are, but they're not owners, right? They can, I believe we're all leaders. We lead ourselves first in our lives and so on. But if I'm an employee, unless I have shares in the company and I'm partial owner, that's a whole different story. But if I'm an employee, we entered into a business contract where I deliver certain work, right, within the scope, a little bit outside of it, and you pay me. But outside of it, I'm not the one responsible for the success of the entire business, right? It's the owner, the CEO, or the leader, right? Like you, again,
Are there any metrics to find out now the risk of the business being dead is kind of decreasing? Like any metrics to track, okay, this is not going to happen. So sales are increasing, like the obvious ones, or?
Sales, definitely your lead generation, sales conversions and sales and like general income, right? So there is like a more operational metric, meaning, okay, how many leads we get from each, whatever avenue we have, how many of those convert into sales conversations, how many of those convert into actual sales clients. And then, of course, then I track my income, my gross income, and so on. There is the client satisfaction, the complaints, client retention, all of that you can track. Again, and then there's a lot of specific things depending on the business. So let's say if I'm a construction business, how many projects do I finish on time and on budget? That could help me know that, because if 100% of the project are never on time and never on budget, I have big problems, right? In terms of your employee, then it's their the churn rate of the employees. You can track some employee satisfaction. there is a lot then just depends on what type of business you are in operation. The one thing also that I could say, if you're in an industry that's, let's say, a dying industry, and on top of it, you're not good at that because of what you're doing, then that's another indicator. But outside of being in a dying industry, then.
And someone is having enough business and they are kind of now exhausted, but again they're still having that fear, or they don't have the mindset of letting go and hiring people. What should be the first thing that you're going to tell someone to start doing? If they have 7 days to turn around the things, it's in their favor. If they don't do it, they will lose the business that they're proud of now. So what should be the thing that they should start doing now?
You need to rethink what you want out of this business. Right? Either you want it to grow, you might need to rethink your strategy, right? And then make decisions and start executing, right? So if you wanted to grow, let's say, I have enough clients, what does that mean? Enough clients meaning I'm working 7 days a week, 24/7 just to make ends meet? Or okay, maybe I don't want to become the next Amazon. Maybe I don't want to grow it, but whatever I'm doing is not sustainable. So what do I need to do? I need to maybe reduce the amount of hours that I work. But with that, maybe I need to rethink what type of clients I serve. Maybe I'm not charging them enough. Maybe I'm not positioned properly in how I message my services. So I'm not making enough money, which makes me work more, right? So maybe I need to elevate the quality of my service, how I package the service, work less, charge more, and keep it more of a lifestyle business. And, with the couple of people that I have, right? Or if my goal is to grow, but at how I'm going and at the rate I'm going, it's going to collapse because I collapse, not because maybe I have problems in terms of sales and so on, but because of that collapse, I would say just seek help. Get an outside perspective what to do, because very often it's very hard to see, especially if you're tired and burned out, any different path because you're too close to the problem. You're too attached.
If someone is going through it for the past 4 or 5 years, is it too late or still?
No, it might not be. It depends again where you are. It might not be. I really think if you can turn things always around, unless the only time when might be too late when you're financially not viable. And you just can't carry on any changes, you're bankrupt type of thing, then it's probably hard unless you find outside investors to help you out, right? So there is, I don't know if you watched on Netflix, there was a bit of a documentary about Victoria Beckham.
No, I haven't.
It's actually pretty cool. Okay. So it shows how she, went from Spice Girls to marrying Beckham and then kind of reinventing herself because now she's a designer, right? And a part of it is when she started designing. At first, of course, nobody was taking her seriously. It was this Spice Girl, whatever. But then, because she was good and people started noticing, she started growing really fast and well. She was really fast in terms of people loving her designs and being recognized. But because she wasn't a business person, financially, it was a disaster. So there was a moment in her business where even though it was, on the outside looking well, she was near bankruptcy. And if she didn't change anything, it would have been gone. But at this point, she needed outside investors to bring in capital to keep going, and also advice, right, which she found. So that's why the only time you might not be able to change anything or turn things around if financially you're not viable and you don't have capital to help you get out of it. But if you are, and it's just a matter of looking at different options, different strategy, different things, just seek advice. Look for somebody who is not attached to your business, who is an expert, of course, who knows what they're doing, to see what you can do, because I believe there's always something you can do.
And what do you see in a founder like who is proud of the thing that they are needed? Is this even a thing to be proud of?
That's insecurity. It's a proud, like it feels good, right? It feels good to be needed and so on. But so for me, if somebody, don't get me wrong, it feels good to me to feel needed. And at the same time, I don't need that to feel good about myself or to feel successful or to feel that I am an accomplished human being as a whole. I don't need to feel needed. So if you're attaching that the fact that you're needed to your whole self-worth, you got to work on that. Mm-hmm. It's a self-development problem. It's kind of like when you think about, you told me you have a child, right? But I have children too. So some parents put on their children pressure of fulfilling their dreams that they didn't, or that they get so attached to their kids that they almost control their lives, right? Whereas for me, the way I think about being parent is I didn't have my kids for me. I had it for them. As a leader of my kids, what I need to do is help them become independent, kind, self-sufficient human beings. And they get to decide what they want to do with their life. So I'm just building their foundation. And then you go. Do your life because you're an independent human being, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't need you to be a certain way or be a certain kind to feel good about myself. So it's a little bit the same, right? If I need feel needed because my self-worth is tied to that, then it's a problem. And in business, it's a big problem. And, in personal relationship, that can cause conflict and some challenges.
At the end, what would be the one thing that you will tell a founder that make a business in this way that can survive even without you? Like, what would be the one thing that they should do that can outlast them as well? It's not entirely dependent. Maybe I would not have asked you, covered in it, and you wanted to say maybe this is a time.
Yeah. One thing, you need amazing people. There's no business without people, right? Businesses serve people and they're built by people. Mm-hmm. And yes, you need processes, and yes, you need technology and so on. But without great people that work well together as a team, nothing works. So if you have to focus on that and you have to invest in great people and build them. And then if you remove yourself, they need a leader that is also amazing, that can work well with them for you to be able to remove yourself. But people, the most important.
Got it. Thank you so much, Maggie, for coming to the show. Yeah. This really means a lot.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.